plenty beside their names. It was in the interpersonal world that they became vapid and invisible. Trauma and its healing are consuming. As any of us who have worked with it can attest, the survivor's entire brain and body are reset in the direction of threat and terror. Recovery is rarely quick, and it is virtually diagnostic that for quite some time there is little attention for much else. What kind of person would partner and persist long years with someone whose interest and attention were so meager, who is engrossed and overwhelmed by pain and fear? What sort of childhood would prepare and train them to endure that kind of solitude in a partnership? These questions evolved into my interest in what I came to understand as neglect. That first workshop day was a watershed for all of us. I did gently press them to talk about themselves. The day became lively, and by the end of the day, they wanted to continue meeting and asked for an ongoing group. We continued meeting, largely intact for many years. When I began to complain that I was getting too old to work so late into the evenings, they protested. "We will pay more. We'll meet less often, but please keep it going." They were learning so much about connection from their relationships with each other, and they were the living laboratory where my nascent study of neglect began. Starting out, I was flying somewhat blind. The trauma treatment I was steeped in did not seem to apply to them. Clients with incident or shock trauma have hyper-aroused nervous systems, meaning they live in a chronic state of fight or flight. The freeze or numbing response, which is the one I learned about more in depth later, I would find to be more applicable to neglect. Initially, I was not sure what neglect survivors needed in the way of their own treatment. A number of important theoretical, biological, and even sociological influences have been essential in evolving my ideas about treatment for neglect ever since. I want to be sure to acknowledge, validate, connect the elements, and guard against appearing to reinvent the wheel. I do not have to reach far to recall them. We never really work alone, even though solitude can create an illusion of self-sufficiency. Both the experience of neglect and our culture of rugged individualism relentlessly reinforce that myth. Attachment theory. Most significantly, attachment theory has a tremendous influence on my thinking, with its emphasis on the profound impact of relationship and relationship dynamics on psychological, emotional, social, and physical development. The British psychologist John Bowlby and his assistant, Mary Ainsworth, created the initial framework for attachment theory, beginning in the 1930s and 40s. The elegant theory, as the listener may know, works from the premise that our first relationships with primary caregivers provide the template for all subsequent relationships, and the tenaciously repetitive nature of relationship patterns. Left to themselves, these patterns persist through the lifespan. Bowlby identified 4 main attachment styles. The first and most favorable, of course, is the securely attached, where the parent's consistency and presence provide predictability and a ready supply of what the infant needs to physically thrive, and also feel comfortable and safe. Of course, there is no perfect caregiver, but this child develops with a reasonable expectation of receiving a consistent supply of focused attention, gratification, and protection, which contribute to the unfolding experience of having value and a sense of self that reflects that. When the parent's presence and care are intermittent or unpredictable, the child lives in a chronic state of uncertainty, not knowing if and when they can hope to be taken care of.